Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast for Monday the 10th of April, and joining me on this edition are Assistant Editor Steve Withers.
Who talks first? You talk first.
News Editor Mark Hodgkinson.
You've changed your hair.
And special guest star Mark Botwright.
Have you felt it?
Right, so who's the fan of Salvage Hunters?
That would be me. Salvage and Storage Hunters.
The difference being?
Oh, the difference being one has very expensive old things that are actually worth some kind of money. The other is a lot of kind of human detritus buying things from storage bins.
Which one's which? Because they were in Macclesfield this week. It came up on my Facebook page. I can't remember. It was the Mac Express or something, the local paper. And there was a picture of the guy. I don't know his name because I don't watch this program. Kind of strange looking tweedy guy with glasses. Does that make sense?
A tweedy guy.
he was all in tweed.
He was wearing a little flat cap.
Yeah, he had a flat cap on. Little tweed flat cap. Yeah, and he was pictured with my postman. Well, the postman who does all the parcel deliveries. And he was standing outside the back of what looked like Tops tiles next to the bins. Do you reckon? Is that what they do? Go around people's bins and, you know.
In short, no.
Oh, right, okay.
But that's a hell of a claim to fame. You and your postman.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to look twice. I was thinking, well, why is my postman on Facebook? And then it mentioned Salvage Hunters, and there he was next to him, beaming away. He was.
Is this the kind of inside scoop that's made the running order now?
Yeah, there's no ad, so it's pure filler.
People I saw this week.
People I saw on Facebook this week, and I actually see him in person. I'm not altogether sure it was Tops Tiles, but it looked to be around that area. It's going to one of the retail parks in Macclesfield somewhere. Yeah, but there you go.
Yeah.
Are you jealous?
No, not really.
Yes.
No,
it's good free advertising for Tops Tiles as well.
Well, I'm not.
Round the back of Tops Tiles.
Yeah, around the back of Tops Tiles, and also next to Tops Tiles is another tile giant. It's like kind of the tile area of Macclesfield. there's B&Q just across the road. So if you want tiles, that's the area you want to go in. And I'm guessing that's why he was there, looking for old tiles.
Well, thanks very much for that, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's my week.
Well, my week, I travelled about an hour away to a 50s diner to meet a load of strangers, which sounds really dodgy.
Cheeky spot of dogging then, was it, Phil?
Yeah, not quite. No, it was the first Pony Club meeting. So the first time I'd gone and met fellow Mustang owners. Some beautiful cars there, mine. 1968 and a 1966 original. There's a GT 500 from the 90s and so on. Oh, some really nice cars there. And funnily enough, the people were all right as well. There wasn't any weirdos there, so yeah. I call that, well, apart from me. Apart from me.
They don't call it the Pony Club, do they?
Yes, they call it a Pony Club. The Northern Pony Club.
Every now and then there's a young girl with a small pony turn up by accident, getting it all confused.
I've no idea. On the back of that, I'm going to another event on Sunday, because you do, which is parking on the grass, basically, with loads of other American cars. So my social life is really taking off at the moment.
I was going to say, congregating in car parks late at night with other people in cars.
No, it's not. It's not late at night. It's during the day.
It looked very authentic as well. Looking at the pictures of the American diner, it was.
Yeah, just a shame that the food was shit.
Was it? That's pretty predictable, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it wasn't a Five Guys. I'll give it that.
Did you all go out and rev your engines after?
No, because it's obviously, you know, when you're talking about Mustangs, you're talking about brand new stuff, or you're talking about old stuff that needs to be kept on the road, and the people that can afford that are usually retired. So it was quite a mature crowd, actually.
Again, apart from you.
Again, apart from me. I was one of the younger members there. So no, it wasn't all about revving engines and that, but there was a lot of bonnets being lifted and things being looked at, which I have no idea about. Mr. Botwright, what did you do in your social life since the last podcast?
My time yesterday was spent going to my nephew's school and doing some African artwork, if you must know.
All right. And what's African artwork?
You use I don't think it's authentic, as in I don't think they traditionally used cotton buds and finger paint, but you know, it's all quite good.
So what did you paint?
I didn't paint anything. He painted it, but I had to draw an elephant, so you know. It's a horrible thing if you haven't drawn anything for years and someone suddenly says, "Can you draw something?" You go, "Oh God."
Yeah, I think the best I could do would be stick men. Can you do stick elephants? Does that work?
No. It kind of ended up as some kind of just do a wonky looking horse with a trunk, and that'll do.
I often have to get involved in our kids. They have art projects and various things that last the term, and almost inevitably I end up doing them. But the good thing is they always look like they've been done by a kid anyway, so
Yeah.
you can't really tell any difference. They'll never be sussed.
And Steve, you took over the role of Hodge this week, dodging out of work.
Well, because of a sick cat. Yes. Unfortunately, I had to go to the vets twice. Both trips involving, at least 50 quid and a series of injections for the poor thing. But she had a bit of a virus. She's all right now. Just expensive. What can you do?
Well, do you have to have a cat?
Let her die, I suppose. But
so I'll repeat what you said to me once. It's only a fucking cat.
Definitely now you've got one, haven't you?
I was slightly less concerned than Laura, who was always assumes the worst. So you could have a slight temperature and it's like, oh, she's going to die. No, she's not. She's fine. Anyway.
Right, let's move on. Let's go to hardware news and a TV for a change. Steve?
Yeah, the Sony XE93. So this is their edge-lit sort of flagship model. Design-wise, not dissimilar from last year's XD93. Very similar looking design, a little bit deeper, not quite as narrow or thin as last year's model, but and it weighs a ton for an edge-lit telly. This is seriously heavy, suggesting it is extremely well made, which it certainly looks like it is. I mean, Sony, they always have very attractive designs. I think it's a really good looking telly. Same kind of sloped metallic stand that they were using last year. The rear is slightly different. It's got a kind of a grid design to it now, which makes it easier to hide the various panels that you can remove to connect things. So you've got quite good cable management at the back there. Otherwise, though, like I say, it is pretty similar design-wise to last year. And in terms of performance, not dissimilar either. The color gamut is about the same. So looking about 94% of DCI-P3 when measured with 1976. And it's but the big difference is it's a lot brighter. This TV can put out nearly 1,500 nits in an accurate mode, which is staggering for an edge lit telly. So that's a big jump in brightness performance. But otherwise, though, I think it is pretty similar in terms of design. Now, this uses the X1 Extreme processor. So what that basically means is that it will be getting a Dolby Vision upgrade later in the year. But at the moment, it's still HDR10. It will also be getting HLG, hybrid log gamma, as well later in the year. But at the moment, it's HDR10. And I got to say, for an edge-lit telly, its HDR10 performance was absolutely stellar. Really, really impressive TV. Because, like I say, it can get really bright. It's got a pretty wide color gamma. It tracks very accurately. It did a great performance. My new Planet Earth 2 Ultra HD Blu-ray looks absolutely stunning on it. The one thing I will say, and this is applicable to all VA panels. It uses a VA panel, so you get the good blacks for an LCD TV, and you get good contrast performance for an LCD TV. But as soon as you start moving off axis, any more than about 30 degrees off axis, you'll start to see a significant drop off in contrast performance. Once you get to 45 degrees off axis, there's a very big drop off in contrast performance, and you will see haloing from the local dimming at that point. So bear that in mind, depending on where you're going to be sat. But certainly when you're sat facing the TV, it delivers a really, really good performance. Deep blacks, good, really effective local dimming, fantastic performance in SDR and in HDR. It has the Android TV platform, of course, as with the last few years of Sony TVs. Again, it's not one I'm massively in love with. I tend to, it always feels like it's about 3 different systems bolted together. And so it's never necessarily, you can do things at least 3 different ways sometimes. It's still not entirely robust. I had 2 crashes so far in the space of a week. So it's still not the most robust system, I have to say. It can be a bit annoying, and I don't necessarily like the way it's all bundled together, but it has got that. It's got the same remote from last year, that kind of rubberized remote with a very low button, which some people like and some people don't like, because it's quite hard to find the buttons in the dark. And sound-wise, it's okay. It's nothing amazing, but it's an edge-lit thin telly, so it's never going to sound fantastic, but it sounds pretty good. Overall, I'm impressed. I think performance-wise, it's a really good TV. Input lag-wise, it's measuring, well, it depends on how you play. If you're playing 1080p games, you're going to get about 42 milliseconds of lag, whether it's SDR or HDR. You get a lower input lag, though, if you're playing in 4K. So presumably, because the TV hasn't got to scale the content up, it will reduce the lag. But I guess most people are still probably gaming in 1080p rather than 4K, unless they've got either a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One S, or they use a PC gaming rig. But if you're a 1080p gamer, it's a little bit high. But I mean, I think 40 milliseconds is fine. I don't think we're going to complain about that. And it's more like 25 milliseconds if you're using a 4K source. So yeah, I think as a edge-lit 4K Ultra HD HDR TV, I think it's a cracking performer. Really impressed.
Worth the price premium over the XE90?
That's an interesting question, Mark, and because the XE93 is brighter, but the XE90, of course, has a direct LED backlight, and it has local dimming. Although I think the local dimming is better on the XE93. Is it worth the price? Well, it depends on whether you place any value on Dolby Vision, I think, because the XE90 doesn't use the extreme processor, the X1 Extreme processor, so you haven't got that upgrade path. Otherwise, though, yeah, you're right. The 90 is a cracking value for what you're going to get. And in most other respects, it's a very similar performer. So in terms of, I think the color gamut isn't quite as big on the XE90. It's a little bit smaller, but still pretty big. And the other aspects of its performance are very similar. So, tough call, really.
A lot it seems to be made of how bright the 93 goes.
I was staggered, actually. I must admit, when I first measured it, I had to do it again because I thought, is that right? But yeah, it's really bright. I mean, that's a big jump up. I mean, it was 1,000 last year. So it's a significant increase in brightness for particularly for an edge-lit TV. Yeah, I was very, very surprised. I'll be really curious to see when it comes in for review just how bright the XE94 is, which of course is just a direct LED backlight. Because 1,500 or nearly 1,500 from an edge-lit telly is a significant increase from last year.
Yeah, but the XE94 is just a bit big.
It is a 75-inch telly. But once you go big, Phil, there's no going back.
I'm just imagining you having to wear like those little goggles that they wear when they go in sunbeds.
Welding goggles.
Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, Mark, I was just going to ask you, when it comes to gaming, I have it in my head that you're sat about a foot away from the TV on the floor with your legs crossed and the controller in your hand.
No, not in the slightest. If anything, I'm a little bit further away. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of looking, or I've hesitated about the idea of upgrading to 4K. Is the fact that, you know, I assume I would have to sit a little bit closer, and I'd have to stop being lazy and actually put my glasses on.
Your sunglasses or your normal glasses?
No, normal glasses. If I take them off, then poor quality graphics and poor quality TV signals actually look fairly okay. You know, I can watch ITV4 without them.
It's a bit strange about the input lag, isn't it? A bit being lower on 4K HDR than it is on.
Well, it shows a bit of a shift, doesn't it? The fact that, you know, for a long time it was kind of, you know, you had to really kind of research it, what, you know, if anything was changing with regards to the HDR signal or 4K signal, and now it's come to the point where that's the one that's most touted, and if anything, it's the 1080p one that people have to kind of look into.
Mm-hmm.
I think in my limited experience so far, whether it's SDR or HDR makes no difference to the input lag, basically. But I think it is interesting that not having to scale the image up to the panel, which I guess makes sense when you think about it. Anything that involves additional processing is going to add a little bit of lag to it, isn't it? If you turn on the true motion, you know, that medium adds lag to it. So, I mean, it defaults to off in the game mode, and definitely leave it off, because that will significantly increase the input lag.
Is the Android TV system based on Android 6?
Yes.
It is. And it's getting a 7 update, isn't it? Later in the
year. No, I think that, as I understand it, basically it's going to be a massive update in a couple of months. I was going to say the summer, but it's nearly the summer, isn't it now? In a few months' time, there's going to be a massive update where they're going to be adding Android 7, HLG, and Dolby Vision. Well, at least in the case
what could go wrong?
Sorry, that's specified. That's in the case of the XE94, 93, and the ZD9. Obviously, for the lower tier models, it will be Android 7 and HLG. Yeah, but you're right, Mark. What could possibly go wrong with a massive update like that?
No, nothing.
Yeah, that's assuming it actually happens on time.
Yeah, and anything involving Android has a tendency to be delayed.
Well, I mean, Android 7's ready to go, and it should find. I mean, you won't have it then, but it'll be a lot more coherent a system when they've got 7 in. It's much better for a TV system.
Okay, good stuff. So that's the XE93. The review will be up on the site at some point, sometime, with a video
next week
as well. It's at some point. You're not jet setting next week, are you?
No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere now until the end of May.
Thank God. Okay. Mark, tell us all about ZTE.
Oh, ZTE. Sorry, I wasn't ready for that. Yeah, I can't tell you a lot because this was just a snippet from the end of one of their mobile device presentations. But they've got an Android TV box, so not just a TV running a box running Android, the actual Android TV operating system, which makes them the third manufacturer to be granted that in the box market alongside Nvidia and Xiaomi. So it'll get 4K Netflix and 4K YouTube as a minimum. But the interesting thing about it was it claims to support Dolby Vision, which none of the others do. So that's presumably because it's based on one of the latest Amlogic chipsets, which would be the S912. I'm not sure which revision it is that supports Dolby Vision, but certainly the one I've got a box in now with an S912, and it definitely doesn't support Dolby Vision. It's scheduled for release sometime in 2017. And it's going to be part of ZTE's smart home campaign, as it were. They've got like everyone, they've got a series of smart home products coming out, and this is going to be one way you can control it. That's all part of Android 7 as well, that Google are building more and more of this smart home system stuff into the operating system, and that's a reflection of that. I don't know a lot about it. It'll be interesting to try and get hold of a sample if possible, because obviously ZTE are a well-known manufacturer, and you'd hope they'd send out something that works pretty nicely. It's it's a wait and see product really, but if it does everything it claims to do, it could be a contender. Okay,
good stuff. So tell us about something that you do know about. So that's a box that you've reviewed. The Zappiti Duo. Did I say that correct?
No, I really don't know. You're worse than me. It's a Zappiti.
Zappiti.
A Zappiti. You say it in a French accent because they're a French organisation. They brought out a new series of products at the beginning of the year. There's three of them under the Zappiti 4K HDR banner. There's the Mini, the One, and the Duo. The Mini doesn't come with a hard drive bay, whereas the One and Duo do, 1 and 2 respectively. As reflected in the names, they come with hot swappable 3.5-inch SATA docking stations. And although they're based on Android, they don't really. It's not really quite occupying the same market as the cheaper Android boxes, because Zappiti had their own little twist of things. So there's namely, really, there's the Zappiti Media Center, which is their own take on a media ecosystem. It just adds a little bit more to the package. So you've got cloud sync of all your content, so you can go from one place to another and just plonk it in it and it'll work, or use a different device and it'll work with all your collection. It's got its own image database as well as subtitles. It does movie trailers and offline playback. And one of the real benefits of Zappiti is they're constantly updating the software. Like Popcorn Hour and June do. They really keep on top of it, and if anything breaks, they fix it pretty quickly. I reviewed the Duo, which would be overkill for me because all my stuff's stored on the network, really. But it's nice to have that option, I guess, if you want something really, really quick and snappy. Obviously, having local drives is just that little bit better. They're quite expensive. The Mini retails for €249, the One for $299, and the Duo's $399. But then again, they are built really, really well, and they come with a very nice remote control. Certainly, much better than you get with your standard box. It's backlit, and it's got all the buttons you want, and it's a well-made bit of kit. Yeah, and in terms of media playback, it pretty much deals with everything you can think of. So it does frame pack 3D, it does HD and immersive audio formats, 4K up to 60 frames per second, 10-bit HEVC, dynamic refresh rate switching, and it all just generally works very, very nicely. Now, the elephant in the room as far as the PT are concerned is the Zappiti X9S, which I reviewed, I can't remember if it was this year or late last year. It's based on the same Realtek RTD 1295 chipset, and Realtek, to be honest, provide all the background support for Zappiti as well, so that their player, the nuts and bolts of actually playing the content, is based on the Realtek player. And as you can imagine, they're very, very, very similar in performance. And the Zappiti is significantly cheaper than the Zappiti. So the Zappiti X9S, I think retails for about $129, so it's almost half the price of the Mini, which is highly comparable to. Now, where Zappiti wins is in the build quality, in the better remote, in the Zappiti Media Center ecosystem, Now, one thing the Duo X9S wouldn't do, and it's a bit strange that the Zappiti would, is play 4K 10-bit HEVC at 50 frames per second and dynamically switch into 50 hertz output. For some reason, the Duo switches into 60, so that's a slight gain as far as the Zappiti is concerned. And you also, the setup of Zappiti Media Center is a little bit easier than setting up ZDMC, which is a fork of Zadu's fork of Kodi. And it, it's a bit more plug and play. You plug it in, you create an account, you scan for your content, and you're done pretty much. Really, it scrapes all the movie covers and fan art you need, and all the metadata, synopsis, and all that kind of stuff. Not that the Zappiti can't do that. It's just that it's easier to do it on the Zappiti. But that's really about it. If you're comfortable messing around in Kodi, then you've no real massive reason to choose the Zappiti over the Zappiti. The other weak points, I guess, would be there's a real lack of customization options with Zappiti. You've got two choices of interface. You've got the red one, which I don't like, and a silver one, which is an optional and paid for extra. Don't know how Zappiti justify charging you a $5 for a silver theme, as it were. And it does look really nice, but they really should be giving this stuff away free. There's no HLG or Dolby Vision support, and none in the pipeline as far as we know. So future proofing wise, it's like everything really, it'll be outmoded later in the year. But yeah, it's a really, really solid player that if you want a fairly plug and play solution, really good hardware and software support, it's a really good machine. And
I'm assuming that the Zappiti you can use two hard drives. Up to what size? 16 terabyte, 8 terabyte per bay. All right, so you're not going to run out of room really. Unless you're a ridiculous collector, no, that should be enough for most people, yeah. I would think. So if you're going for a top spec for that, so you're buying the machine and the two hard drives, what are you looking at ballpark? Machine's $399. Well, you can get a hard drive for about 90. 4 terabyte. Well, I don't know how much an 8. I know a 4 terabyte drive because I was looking the other day. Actually, funnily enough, you're looking at about 90 quid, 90 to 100 quid. So it's probably about 120, 130 for an 8 TB drive. So 260 plus 400, 660 or something like that. What I should say actually is the PTA are having a bit of a stab at the custom install market, and quite successfully by the sounds of things. Since Kaleidoscape virtually is dead, Zappiti are trying to step into that market. So it does interface with like the likes of Control 4 and that kind of stuff, these control systems. And there is a product called the Nazrip, the Zappiti Nazrip, which does a very similar job to the Kaleidoscape machines, as in you put your disc in, it rips it, it scrapes the information, it's there ready to play. So in the custom install market, they're certainly going to be looking to position themselves a bit of a player as well. Which is interesting because certainly in the custom install market, it has to work every time, and it can't have any little foibles or do things. It has to be easy to use. It has to be, the wife has to be able to go in and pick up the remote control and be able to use it. So I would say in the case of the PT, other than the initial setup, anyone can use it. Honestly, it's just movies, TV shows, and then there's a few categories you can do search, but it's all just presented in that that nice picture wall sort of format. It's dead easy to use, really easy. Okay, cool. Sounds like an interesting product, and it looks like it's got everything bar Dolby Vision and HLG, which is no great loss, really. No, not at this stage of things, really. Where are you going to get your Dolby Vision content from? And your HLG content from right now? There's nothing there, is there? So, yeah, as things stand, it's great. Okay. Good stuff. So let's move on swiftly. Xbox Scorpio. What the hell is this, Mark?
Yes, this is the kind of Microsoft's answer to the PlayStation 4 Pro. So a kind of mid-gen refresh designed specifically around 4K content. And it seems like Digital Foundry got the inside scoop and have looked at some of the tech behind Microsoft's plans. And it seems, hardware-wise, pretty much as you would expect: improved CPU, GPU, more RAM, that kind of thing, higher memory bandwidth. What it gives you, though, UHD Blu-ray, obviously, like the Xbox One S, but was a kind of an annoying omission from the PlayStation 4 Pro. Seems like it's going to be more powerful than the PlayStation 4 Pro, tailored towards, in quotes, the premium customer. Now, quite what that means is anyone's guess, but
it means 500 quid at retail.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, this is the thing. I didn't even. There's some speculation that perhaps they're just almost kind of pushing this idea that it's for premium customers, and they're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat at E3 and show it at a lesser price point. A lovely little surprise, so to speak. But it seems like it's kind of very much going to be their all singing, all dancing, all whistles box, and it's particularly interesting for the benefits for standard existing Xbox One and Xbox 360 games. So improved frame rates where you don't have a locked frame rate, so where you obviously get the dips. Supposedly, it's going to completely eliminate screen tearing because of that. Where you've got dynamic frame rates, it will always max it out. Improved load times, a game DVR capable of capturing at 4K 60 frames a second. So it definitely sounds like it's going to bring benefits for the existing games catalogue, and that also kind of ties in with this idea that I think they might currently be beta testing it, but the Xbox Games Pass, which is going to be like a kind of subscription service similar to EA Access for a certain amount of Xbox One and Xbox 360 games. So get yourself access to a large catalog for some kind of a monthly fee. So it almost seems like it is pushing towards that games as a service model, which Microsoft might want to kind of start tailoring their boxes around. So the idea of a machine that plays a huge back catalogue of titles, because of course with a PlayStation 4 they've kind of left behind PlayStation 3, whereas Microsoft have forged ahead with this idea of backwards compatibility of with Games with Gold they give away 360 games which will be playable through your Xbox One. So yeah, it sounds very interesting. Obviously there was nothing about price, name, or anything like that, or even a specific release date. But we would assume we'll get all of that at E3, and potentially, there might even be exclusives on this. We don't know. With Sony, with the PlayStation 4 Pro, they've always said there won't be. With Microsoft, have been a little bit more coy about that. I think they know that they've got more of a chance to kind of leverage people into buying it if perhaps there's some all singing, all dancing game that comes out specifically for it. I'd still say that's an outside possibility, but yeah, right now it seems like with the benefits it can offer to the existing catalogue of titles, which PS4 Pro with its boost mode has been more hit and miss. This carries the promise of it will improve everything that is there. Anything that performs at a certain level on Xbox One, Xbox 360 that you've had the dips in, any kind of minor stuttering, that kind of thing. This has got the headroom to completely iron that out. So it will not only improve the catalogue of titles you've got, but you'll be playing prettier games on it. And they showed it off apparently with Forza running at 4K, 60 frames a second, native 4K, with room to spare, and that was at Xbox One quality settings. So seems pretty big statement of intent from Microsoft.
Apparently, Turn 10 only had 2 days to turn that around as well. So they were given 2 days to get it running like that on Scorpio, and did it, which is promising, isn't it, for the existing games catalogue?
Yeah, hugely so, hugely.
Have you seen the cooling system on it?
Hovis.
Yeah, beautiful. Isn't that really nice? I got really excited when I saw that.
I was expecting something bread related, I'll be honest. When I heard it, I thought, ooh. No,
it's not a loaf of bread on the back of it.
No, it's the guy who designed it was called Hovis, apparently.
Yeah, but no, it seems very much. I mean, with the Xbox One, they designed a decent machine that mine runs absolutely whisper quiet, and they've obviously designed these things. They're very good with the cooling after the problems they had with the Xbox 360 and the problems with the solder flow and kind of overheating. They've clearly wanted to make sure they produce as functional and as reliable boxes as they possibly can. And if they manage to do that again, and if they hit a good price point, then I don't see why this kind of idea of a mid-gen refresh can't kind of kickstart something for them.
I'm all over it. I'm definitely getting one of these.
Well, particularly for people who, should we say, if you've got a 4K TV and you look at the PS4 Pro and you want a UHD player as well, it's left people in a bit of a quandary, which is, I know a certain amount of people have wanted to jump on the Xbox One S because it offers, a cheap UHD Blu-ray player as well as a games console. So, the PS4 Pro, it does look like a sorely lacking feature that you say, yes, you will get your 4K content. By the way, that's only 4K streaming, which, if you want kind of full fat 4K, so to speak, you're going to want to get your, like your Planet Earth 2 UHD Blu-ray, aren't you?
Yeah.
And it just so happens that the Xbox One S is winging its way to Steve right now to be tested as a Blu-ray player.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Steve gets the 1S, Hodge gets the Switch.
It's not. Life's cool, isn't it?
What are you trying to say, Mark?
I'm just saying I'm open for freebies. That's all I'm saying.
They're not freebies. They all have to go
we
back.
send everything back.
They all have to go back, unfortunately. It's a hard life, Mark.
It is. It's especially hard when I keep getting bloody packages through the post for someone else who doesn't even live at my house. And I keep taking them up at the damn post office, and they've come all the way from China. I've got no idea what they are.
What size are they?
It's a tiny little box, which is clearly, and it comes marked as plastic box for lamp. And you just think someone's got a broken lamp somewhere, and they've ordered 3 of these things from China, and they keep coming through my door. And it's the damn.
It can't be urgent though if they're ordering them from China, can it? If it can't be an urgent repair.
Well,
What kind of lamp is it? Buy a lamp.
This is the thing. What kind of a part do you have to order all the way from China? And the last one came via the Cayman Islands as well.
That's dodgy.
I know.
This is dodgy.
What you got yourself involved in, man?
Yeah, it's probably not for public consumption, this. Okay, thanks for that, Mark. And obviously, Xbox Scorpio will be keeping an eye on that. So moving on, if you got a broadband, which is decent, and you want to change your supplier, or you want to see if you can get it any cheaper, you can usually use comparison tools, unless you're Steve and you just have to stick to the one supplier because it's the only internet you're ever going to get. Mark, tell us about the new AVForums comparison tool.
Yeah, so it's our recently launched comparison tool, which will look at deals from all the major providers, including Sky, BT, TalkTalk, Virgin, PlusNet, John Lewis, EE, I can't read that one, Now TV, SSE, and Vodafone. And it compares on the grounds of broadband and phone deals, broadband and TV deals, or a combination of all 3. You can then specify what kind of broadband you like. So you can just go for standard broadband or very fast. You can then have either unlimited or capped data on that deal. And then the tool will ask you how often you use your home phone, like never, evenings and weekends or any time. And then it will present a series of deals based on those criteria, presented in a very nice and easy to read way. And it'll highlight all the major benefits of the deal, such as the broadband usage and the speed and how long your contract is, whether there's any upfront costs, whether there's any incentives, which there often is, or a free TV box or a MS voucher, that kind of thing. And that basically sums it up. It's just an extremely easy to use tool that will bring back all the results you could really, really wish for. I don't know what else to say. Just go and use it.
I think you've done a pretty good job at selling that, to be honest, Mark.
I put my salesman voice on.
Yeah, I noticed that. Right, and to wrap up on the hardware bit, I forgot about competitions at the start. So, Mr. Botwright, why don't you tell us about the competitions?
Okie dokes. Just the one, the same as last week. You can win the 4K Ultra HD Premiere Collection. That includes The Revenant, Kingsman, The Secret Service, Life of Pi, The Maze Runner, Independence Day, and Exodus Gods and Kings. And that one runs until the 17th of April and is open as ever to all eligible members resident in the UK, Ireland, and Isle of Man.
And previous competition winners?
None.
He's won again.
He's won again.
He's won again, yeah. Every week. Right, so thanks for that. That wraps up hardware news. We'll be back in a sec with movie news. And it will need to be movie news because we're into the second week of April, and I've yet to use my card. Yet again, I was minus 12 last month at the end of it all. I did go and see one film, but I went on the cheap day. So it was half price. So that kind of defeated the purpose. But there is stuff out there at the minute which I'm interested in seeing. It's just getting to the cinema at the minute, which is proven difficult now that I've got a social life.
Can't you take the Pony Club? All roll up in your Mustangs like a scene from Saxondale.
No, I don't think that it works that way, Mark. It's just one person per card. So kind of defeats the purpose if you're not then all going to go and sit in a dark room and watch a film as well. And I'm assuming that you haven't gone to the cinema, Steve.
Right, at that time, which is a shame because actually, like you, I do actually want to go and see Free Fire and Ghost in the Shell, but haven't had a chance. I will definitely go next week though, because there is a film coming out that I really want to see. So in terms of films opening this Friday, we have The Hatton Garden Job, which is basically a film version of the robbery that happened. Was it 2 years ago now? Bunch of old school villains robbing a jeweler's in Hatton Garden. Not starring Michael Caine, much to my surprise, but presumably because he's busy starring and going in style, he missed out on this one, even though his name's written all over it. It's got Matthew Good in the lead, and actually, Sharuna really, really enjoyed it. She said it was great fun, really funny, and a good old school caper movie, and she thought it was great. So apparently, it's not bad. So worth checking out if you fancy some East End villains robbing a jewelry store in London. But the big release this week, obviously, is Fast and the Furious 8. I think it's called Fast and the Furious 8. In this country, it's definitely called The Fate of the Furious in the US, but there seems to be a trend with these movies that they have different titles in different areas. So, for example, Fast 5 in the States was called Fast and Furious 5 outside of America, and then Fast and Furious 6 in America was Furious 6 in the rest of the world.
Are they spelling Fate F8?
Oh, that's a good one. That might be why they've gone for that one. Yeah.
That'll be for Twitter and hashtags.
Yeah. Hashtag Fate of the Furious. Yeah.
Seriously, we're now naming our movies based on what we can use them as hashtags.
I'm pretty sure that's the case there.
That just says everything that needs to be said.
It does.
Yeah. Anyway, Fast and Furious 8, the 8th film in this series. The last one, number 7, was the 5th most successful film of all time. Pulling in $1.5 billion, if you can believe that, worldwide. Obviously, no Paul Walker this time because he sadly died. But otherwise, all the old crew are back. Plus, Charlize Theron is joining as the villain. We've also got Kurt Russell back as well. Jason Statham is back. And of course, The Rock. So a cracking cast. And if anyone's seen the trailers, it is more of the same over-the-top nonsense involving cars. And in this case, submarines as well. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this. I think it'll be great fun. And it opens on Friday and expect box office records to fall. How
the hell can you have a submarine and cars? They use completely different areas of the planet.
The submarine's under the ice. It's set on ice. Submarine's under the ice. Submarine comes up through the ice and then it's launching torpedoes and the cars.
Right.
Maybe they're using it as like a segue to start using other modes of transport.
Maybe, Mark. That's maybe the case.
Next one won't have cars.
A bit boring though if they're in submarines next time around. Well,
a bit, won't it?
You can't really say it's Fast and Furious then.
I don't know how many stunts you can do with a submarine.
It's just
they could at least have Sean Connery as a Russian sub-captain though.
Sailing into history.
I've always been impressed by torpedoes and how they can shoot through the water.
Excellent, Mark.
How's that for a non-secretary?
That's a nice contribution, wasn't it? I'm just thinking out loud.
But seemingly it was more difficult than you think to shoot them as well, because you had to take into account. I watch a lot of Discovery. You take into account the obviously the strength of the currents that you're firing through, because you're firing through water. The ship that you're firing on is obviously moving, usually moving at top speed. So you got to predict where it's going to be. And predict that by the time you fired it and the torpedoes reached where you're aiming it, that the ship's going to be there, and the success rate wasn't very high.
And that's why I'm impressed when one strikes.
I know that they add wooden wooden fins to the rear of the torpedoes. The Japanese did when they were launching them in Pearl Harbor, because Pearl Harbor was very shallow, which is one of the reasons why the Americans thought their ships were safe. and they designed these wooden fins they fitted over the pedal at the back of the torpedo, so they could drop it off the planes and it would actually run very shallow. And obviously the ships weren't moving in the harbour, so it made them slightly easier to hit.
Yeah, it's a bit easier to hit something that's not moving.
Size of a battleship that's not moving, it'd be too hard.
The weekend isn't here. We get on to war again.
Yeah.
Ed would have been about 40 minutes on torpedoes.
yeah.
And of course we'll have gotten it all wrong, even though we watched Discovery, and that's what Discovery says. Right, so Fast and the Furious films rack up 419 million in insurance claims. What the hell's all this about, Steve?
Yeah, a UK insurer has watched all 7 films so far. So it doesn't include the 8th film, but up to number 7, they've watched them all. They've made a record of every car they've trashed. It's Glass's guide value, I suppose. And they have smashed up some really expensive cars over the course of these, particularly in the last couple. They've also included the sort of collateral damage in terms of buildings that have been smashed up. Because in the 5th one, they were dragging a safe through the streets of Rio, for example, smashing up buildings and things. Anyway, they've added up all the cost of all the cars, all the buildings that they smashed up and everything else. And they estimate that they've caused in the region of £419 million worth of damage in the course of those 5 films, of which 2/3 of that was done by the heroes.
So no wonder our insurance is going up in price if that's the case.
Blame Vin Diesel.
Is that just the hardware? Were lives taken into consideration?
No, not including human life is not considered in this. This is purely damage of physical things like cars and buildings, and also a tank and a plane.
You do know that in these films that when you see a Ferrari and that it's not actually a Ferrari, it's another car just made to look like one. You do realise that?
Yeah, yes. They're not actually smashing up a sort of a £10 million car.
No.
But but obviously within the context of the film, they did. In terms of the film's narrative, they've smashed up a £10 million car.
But
so
if you were to actually sit down though and go through get somebody that knows something about physics and sit down and go through the whole film, you'll probably find that the lead actors, had it been real life, would have died very, very quickly on some of the stunts that they attempt, especially trying to run up the side of an Arctic. Is it an Arctic lorry that's going over the side of something and somebody's running up the side of it?
Yep, that's Paul Walker actually. So,
and who insures them anyway? Who insures these guys there with terrible records, terrible driving records?
Mark, they just steal them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's mostly stolen.
No, watched it. Sorry. So
I've stolen the car. I'm going to rob somewhere. Hang on.
Sit at the post office. Get me taxed.
Third-party fire and theft.
You can take the theft off of there because it's already been stolen.
That's true.
Ironically, the film with the least amount of damage, or the one film with the least amount of insurance claims, is the 3rd film, which is the only one that actually really involves racing. Although these films are generally associated with racing.
The third one, what was it, Tokyo Drift or whatever?
Tokyo Drift.
It had nothing to do with any of the other fills, or did it? It doesn't.
But bar a 10-second cameo from Vin Diesel right at the very end. Yeah, it had nothing to do with it.
Right. And it doesn't actually fit chronologically either, does it, in terms of plot?
Well, the thing is, there's a character called Han in that, who everyone liked. So they brought Han back in like the 5th film, which meant that therefore the 5th film had to take place before the 3rd film, because, spoiler here, Han dies in the 3rd film. So in other words, it's basically the way the chronology works is it's the 1st and 2nd films, then the 4th film, 5th film, 6th film, and then at the end of the credits of the 6th film, there's a sequence relating to the 3rd film. Then you watch the 3rd film, and then the 7th film. Yes, but as I think Anna's trailers pointed out, that means that there's some very retro tech going on in the 3rd film, considering it's meant to take place after the 6th film.
Well, the 3310s come back, so
It's true, actually.
It could be that we're all going to have flip phones again. You never know. Right, so moving on, Blu-ray releases. There's a big one this week.
Yes. Coming out on Monday, we have Swiss Army Man, which is a film starring Paul Dano as a guy who's trapped on a desert island with only a dead Daniel Radcliffe for company. And the whole film is about him and this dead body, played by Daniel Radcliffe, who he uses as both he farts a lot because there's obviously gases in a rotting body. He uses as a jet ski at some points, and also his company. And basically he helps him get off the island with this dead body. So a bit strange, I have to say, but curious to see that one personally, because Daniel Radcliffe spending the whole film playing a dead body must be a bit of a challenge for Matt.
His best performance ever.
He was tailor-made for the job.
That's Swiss Army Man. We've also got Shut In, which stars Naomi Watts as a woman with a child with learning difficulties, and they're trapped in a house in the snow.
I'm glad she's playing a woman.
Yeah. It's sort of a cross between The Shining and we need to talk about Kevin, which sounds more interesting than it actually is, because Kaz says that although it's based upon an interesting script, the ultimate film is rather disappointing. But the big release this week, obviously, is the release of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which comes out on Monday in both 2D and 3D Blu-ray. No 4K Blu-ray, unfortunately, because this is Disney, of course, and also no immersive audio, because, again, it's Disney. But anyway, Rogue One will be out. You get the film, plus you get a number of short featurettes, kind of total about an hour in total, going through the making of the film.
You don't get any deleted scenes.
No.
And that can only point to there being a major collector's edition coming later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the difference this time at least is there's a 2D and a 3D release, so you can at least buy that now, because last time with Force Awakens, there was a 2D release, then there was a collector's edition 3D release towards the end of the year before Rogue One came out. My guess, you're right, Phil, is that there will be a collector's edition with all those. I mean, we know there's a ton of deleted stuff, right? Tons of it. And there's no commentary track from Gareth Edwards on this release either. So I would expect a more in-depth, I'm hoping for a more in-depth making of with loads of deleted scenes and a commentary track from Gareth Edwards on a special edition towards the end of this year to tie in with the release of Episode 8.
And you never know, it might be the studio's first 4K release.
You never know, it might be. I mean, fingers crossed. But anyway, obviously I'll be buying that in multiple versions.
I think it goes without saying. I even think Hodge is likely.
I've got it. It's on order. It's coming.
See?
Yeah, I've not seen it at the cinema. Remember, I have to miss it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very, very excited.
All right, you buying it?
I will probably pick it up as well. I like Hodge. I missed it at the cinema, so no spoilers.
I'd forgotten that you two hadn't seen it because you weren't on the edition where we did do the whole spoiler.
That's why we weren't on it.
Discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, I know very little about it. Other than, the initial trailer. I didn't watch any more about it after the first trailer.
You know little about it, even though Phil and I have been talking about it for a year.
I don't listen to you.
No, I was going to say I usually unplug my headphones then.
It's wise, Mark, to unplug your headphones now and again, or go and do something else. Right. So Ultra HD Blu-rays. Talking about those, Steve, have they released anything decent yet?
Well, there's been some interesting releases quite recently that have been reviewed on the site. So Passengers, there's a review of that just up at the moment. I've got to say that we were talking about this a few weeks ago, and it's got a lot of criticism for the plot, but I've got to say I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was excellent. I enjoyed the idea of, what would you do in that situation, that kind of moral dilemma that it raises. Thought it was really good. I thought the performances were excellent. I thought Jennifer Lawrence was really charming. Chris Pratt's a great, really charming lead. They work well together, good chemistry. It looks stunning. It's a fantastic 4K Blu-ray. It was a 4K DI. The images are fantastic. It's got a really, really good Dolby Atmos soundtrack as well. Some interesting extras. It's a cracking disc. If you get the US disc, it comes with the film in 3D as well. So you get 2D, 3D, and 4K in one package. Fortunately, that's not the case, I believe, with the UK release coming later in the year. But I thought it was a cracking disc and a really enjoyable film. So really recommend that. We also got Patriots.
Are those region locked for the Blu-rays?
Yeah, they're region A, B, C, so there's no reason not to buy it from the States if you're worried about region locking. It's not the case. Actually, majority of Sony discs, I have only one Sony disc so far I've discovered had region locking for some reason, even though it said it wasn't supposed to be region locked, which was The Shallows. Otherwise, they've been region unlocked for the Blu-rays that come with the Ultra HD Blu-ray. And obviously, Ultra HD Blu-ray doesn't have any regional coding. That's a good one worth checking out. Also, Patriots Day has just been reviewed by Kaz. Again, an interesting film, very entertaining in a sense. I mean, obviously, it's basically a procedural drama thriller related to the Boston Marathon bombing. It's a good DTSX soundtrack on that one and a good picture. In terms of things that have been announced, now the big news in the last couple of weeks has been the announcement that the Ultra HD Blu-ray releases of Despicable Me and Despicable Me 2 from Universal will be the first discs to include Dolby Vision. So that's coming in June. We've also got some other films that have been announced for June as well, funnily enough. Dread is coming to Ultra HD Blu-ray in June, so I'm quite looking forward to that because I thought it was a cracking movie. Also, Ex Machina is coming. And no date yet, but coming on Ultra HD Blu-ray at some point this year. My guess would be to tie in with the release of Alien Covenant. Prometheus is coming out on Ultra HD 4K Blu-ray. Also, the Planet of the Apes films, the new ones, that Rise and Dawn, are coming out on 4K Blu-ray to tie in with the new War of the Planet of the Apes movie that comes out in the summer. And for those of you who enjoy John Wick, which is a cracking Ultra HD Blu-ray, by the way, if you're interested in getting it, and you can get it quite cheaply. Also, John Wick Chapter 2 comes out on the 13th of June in the States, at least. And it should be around about the same time in the UK on 4K Blu-ray. So quite a lot of, I think, good stuff coming out over the next few months that would be worth picking up.
So you say, you've gone through that list, and there's not a lot of films in there that I would watch more than once. And this is my new way of deciding whether I'm going to buy stuff on disc nowadays. Is it something I'm only going to buy once, or will I watch it a few times?
Right.
Obviously, I've got to get the Planet of the Apes ones because we use them as demo sequences.
Yes. And you'll probably get John Wick Chapter 2, won't you?
Yeah, I'm not going to upgrade the first one unless it pops up for £7 or so. Then no, I'll get the second one. First one on Blu-ray is fantastic anyway, and it's got the immersive soundtrack and it looks great. So you not got that big an upgrade really with the first one, but the second one I'll pick up just because I don't have it on Blu-ray. Talking about £7, that was an opening weekend for a film, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah. Man Down, the new film starring Shia LaBeouf, opened in the UK last weekend, and its opening weekend take was £7. Literally,
they sold one ticket. Yeah.
One ticket. And you know what? £7 isn't even the average price of a ticket in the UK. So
it was in Burnley, wasn't it? So
yeah, it was in
fairness.
In fairness, and God knows why, this film was only playing in one cinema in the country, and it was a cinema in Burnley. I'm not quite sure what kind of release schedule that was designed around. But,
well, it was because it was a cinema and digital and disc release all in the same day, so they had to show it in at least one cinema for them to have that. So they picked a cinema in Burnley, and one bloke went along. Or I assume it was a guy. Maybe it was a guy. Although they have said in subsequent screenings that they have sold 2 or 3 tickets now, so it's up to about £40 now, I think, in takings.
That one ticket, though, sounds more like a man trying to avoid arrest to me. Run into a movie theatre. What film will no one else be in?
You've got to ask what happened to Shia LaBeouf, because his career was on the up and up, and then he played the son of Indiana Jones, and then after that, he was in this European film, wasn't he, Steve, where it was basically pornography.
Oh, you mean Nymphomaniac?
Nymphomaniac. He was in that, and then his career has just nosedived from that point on.
I think his career has nosedived because he's been behaving rather strangely since the Transformers / Indiana Jones days. He was definitely the big, the new big thing for a bit, wasn't he? But fame's a fickle thing, isn't it? One minute you're cock of the walk, the next minute you're a feather duster.
You're speaking from experience there, Steve.
Yes.
When were you ever famous?
Success is a fickle thing, I think maybe is a better phrase in that sense.
You've never been successful either, so what are you on about?
But that must annoy Danny Dyer, didn't he? He had the record previously for the least amount of money taken in a weekend.
Well, how do you get less than £7?
You have to basically have no one has to go, right? You have to have the film open and nobody goes to see it.
Does it count refunds?
He funny the guy asked for his money back. That was rubbish.
I was just thinking, what if he's got an unlimited card? I mean, what happens in that case? Does the person you have the unlimited card, the company, do they have to pay for that? Well, obviously not, do they?
I've always wondered how unlimited card attendances actually count towards box office, because clearly, you're paying your fee every month, but you're not paying for it. If you and I went to go and see Between Us or Rogue One 5 times. I don't know how it works, but it's not restricted either. So I think a lot of people think that you get an unlimited card and so on. When a big movie comes out, you're on the restricted list. That's not the case. They can't do that with that. They have to give you access to everything with the unlimited card. So it is costing them money. Yeah, no, definitely. I guess the economics of it work, because you just look at you and I this year. Clearly, they're up on us having those cards because we haven't been using them as much as we should do. Yeah. And they obviously assume most people probably go to cinema once or twice a month, so therefore they're breaking even on the card or making some money. And quite often people maybe won't go at all. And then there's the other people who go and see every single film on their card and absolutely cane it, which I used to do once upon a time.
But what happens though is you start feeling guilty because you got this card sitting in your wallet that you really should be going away. And where they make the money is every time I go to the cinema, I always have a small 1-scoop strawberry cheesecake ice cream at £4. So there you go. They've made £4 out of me for that.
Yeah, I always get a latte, and it's like £2.50. So, but I take my own sweets. So there you go. I'm not paying their money for a bag of Revels. I rang up.
My own sweets.
He's like Alan Partridge with his 12-inch plate.
Bollock Warm Werther's originals.
I rang up Cineworld to cancel my card actually because I decided the one in Swindon it's not very good cinema, to be honest.
Do they offer you free sweets?
No, they gave you a month for free. So I took that. So May's free, and then I will cancel again.
Right.
Because I decided that the Odeon is a lot easier to get to. It's a lot much nearer, and it's a better cinema.
I just really like the Odeon presentation. I don't know if it's the same. I assume it is the same on all the sites. I don't know about the older sites, but just the way they present the whole thing. You know, the little thing starts playing 10 minutes before the film starts, and then you get the guy introducing it, and it's laid back presentation. It's like here's the bit everybody enjoys the trailers, and then you get some trailers, and it's really well put together, and the presentation's really nice.
Yeah.
And you know where you are, and you know what you're gonna get. So yeah, I'm really impressed with Odeon, gotta say. And I didn't realise that was UCI that own Odeon now.
Oh right.
I didn't realise. I only noticed that because I was looking at my unlimited card when I was bored and reading the small print, and it says Odeon owned by United Cinemas International, UCI.
Do they track the unlimited cards then?
What, as in, so they know where you are at any time?
No, is there some way that does it scan or anything? So it kind of allocates a certain, as we were talking about, kind of money towards some kind of film or anything like that.
You would think so.
What I normally do is I book online. So I've got my account created, and the account knows that it's a limitless account. So I just book online, and it sends me my e-ticket to my phone, and I just show my phone to get in. But if you go up to the counter with your card, it's got your photograph on it. So it's a bit like a passport type thing, where they swipe the card and then they check that it is you by looking at the photograph on it. So you can't give it to your mate to go. Yeah, although what you could do is book it online for your mate and send the e-ticket to them. Because they've never once asked me to show my card when I've gone in with my e-ticket on the phone. But that's basically how it works. So it's you that has to use the card.
Yeah. Unless you're a twin.
That's a good idea.
Or
the advantage of being a twin, you get one. Just get the one card.
The world's least exciting heist film. A twin uses an unlimited cinema card.
It'll still make more than £7 at the cinema, wouldn't it?
Danny Dyer and Shia LaBeouf, take note.
Or you could get them in as a double act in the film, couldn't you? Shia LaBeouf and Danny Dyer.
Together at last.
Well, you could remake Twins, couldn't you? It was Twins, wasn't it? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and Danny DeVito.
One joke.
But which one would be the shit one though?
Well, it wouldn't be Danny Dyer, would it? Yeah, he's just a legend. He's been.
Well, in all fairness, I can't name anybody on EastEnders except for Danny Dyer these days, so he is. Adam Woodyard, he's still on it, isn't he?
Who's he?
He's
Ian Beale. Ian Beale.
Right.
And isn't Kathy Beale back these days? Isn't it? I think a lot of the old school have returned because their careers have gone nowhere else.
Is Tucker still in it?
Tucker Jenkins. No, he died.
Did he finally die of AIDS?
I think he did. Oh, did he not? Or just go riding off on his motorbike into the sunset?
I think he went off, didn't he?
Yeah, maybe he did.
And Mrs. Mangle, is she still in it?
Neighbours is under threat, apparently.
Yeah. This is the big story of the week.
Yeah, it could be going. I don't know any more about it. I just overheard.
Mr. Botwright, you sound like you know quite a lot about it.
I
declare an interest, Mark. Come on.
No, I tuned out. They could never hit the high point of having that dream from the sequence of the dog. After Bouncer's dream, it all went downhill.
Oh, Bouncer's dream, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I think I watched Neighbours once, and that was for the Scott and Charlene's wedding back in the 80s. That's the only time I think I've ever watched it, and I thought it was pish.
That was bigger than Dying Charles, wasn't it? That?
It was still pish, Mark.
I know, it was awful. I used to watch Prisoner Cell Block 8.
Oh no, that was quality TV, but they're in a cell block in a prison where the walls move when you.
It was a woman's prison as well, wasn't it? It's groundbreaking stuff.
With none of the good things that you expect from a woman's prison movie.
No.
There wasn't a pretty one amongst them.
Occasional swearing, no nudity.
Let's think back to who was in it, Mark. You wouldn't want to have the nudity.
No, vinegar tits and the rest of them.
Have we wandered off down a cul-de-sac?
Yeah,
we really.
How low can you go? Yeah.
There you go.
Right, so to wrap up, there was a lot of good movies last year. It's now April 2017, so we're talking about 2016. A lot of good movies, a lot of good Blu-rays, a lot of good Ultra HD Blu-rays, and it's your opportunity now. Should you desire to go and vote for the best movie Blu-ray and Ultra HD Blu-ray of 2016. So if you look on the homepage, there is a story. You could go to that and click on that, or you could go to the separate forums for movies for Blu-ray and Ultra HD Blu-ray, and there are polls within those forums as well where you can cast your vote on what you think were the best. Steve, what was your favourite movie of the year last year?
My favourite movie of the year was Rogue One.
Okay, and your favourite Blu-ray?
The Force Awakens.
And your UHD Blu-ray?
Oh, I'm going to go with...
something that's on the list.
Yes, obviously. No, I'm going to go Deadpool. It was the first big release of the format. 4K DI, Dolby Atmos soundtrack. It was a cracking film. It looks and sounds brilliant, and it's got a really good selection of extras as well. Absolutely. I mean, it was the first big release of the new format, and it was a really good first big release too. So I'll go for that one personally.
Okay, I went with The Revenant.
Yeah,
for the Blu-rays, I went for The Force Awakens 3D, and for movie of the year, I went for Rogue One. Mr. Hodge.
Okay. Ultra HD Blu-ray Revenant. Although I'll qualify that by saying I've seen Revenant, Deadpool, and Sicario out of that list, I think. Blu-ray Force Awakens. I don't like 3D, even though it was good. And movie Deadpool.
Okay. And finally, Mr. Botwright.
Can I take the fifth? Which is, I've seen Precious Little. Although I do hear Jungle Book was very good.
Precious Little's not on the list. Yeah, I keep hearing about the Jungle Book. Yet to pick it up on disc. It's one of these ones that I'm going to wait till the Blu-ray or the 3D Blu-ray is in the bargain bin, basically, or in the 3 for 50, whatever it is that HMV do, 3 for 30 or 5 for whatever it is. Once it pops in there, I'll pick it up.
It may never pop in there though, because it's a good film. Don't often see Disney stuff getting knocked down, do you?
All the time. HMV.
Yeah.
Tesco do that, right, as well?
Yeah, Tesco do the Disney stuff as well. Cheap. But Tesco, it's normally DVD. It's rare that they run it on the Blu-rays.
And on that bombshell.
How's that for a film enthusiast podcast? I'll buy it in the bargain bin.
Yeah, well, it's getting expensive these days. Like I said last week, I mean, I was all for buying Fantastic Beasts.
Fantastic Beasts, yeah.
I was all for buying that, and it was 25 quid, and I thought, that's stuffy. If it had been 20, I'd have picked it up. Especially when the Blu-ray's sitting there at $13.99.
It's a lot of money, isn't it?
And there's not that great a difference between the two discs. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
On that bombshell. On that expensive bombshell. That's it for the podcast this week. My thanks to Steve Withers.
Watch the thrust.
Mark Hodgkinson.
Be careful with those, they're explosives.
And Mark Botwright.
It wasn't all bad, was it?
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, bookmark AVForums for the latest reviews, news and videos, and of course, leave us those 5-star ratings on iTunes, but only if you enjoyed the show. I'm Phil Hinton, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.